I work in Parliament. I work in public policy. I want to do a lot.
You want to be there.
I want to be there. Yeah. And then, like, you could go off in the mountains. You can be a mountain guide and you can live that way. But I just couldn't do that right now.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest way while you're climbing. It's, oh, listen, we need to do that. No, it's not. It's not practical.
Yo, listen to this. It's raising the bar, but hot dip, top shop, not rubbing it hard.
How was your day today?
Oh, mate, I've got a 35-kilometer cycle later today.
Oh, something easy on a Sunday morning?
Something easy on a Sunday morning, off to Windsor. My girlfriend, she is incredible at long distance stuff. So I'm going to be absolutely dead by the end of it. I'm more of a climber. I like to use my arms, like to pull a lot, but my legs just don't work like that.
You do like rock climbing, right?
Yeah. I've been bouldering and climbing and mountain climbing for like, it's coming up for 6 years now. Wow. So yeah, I was climbing yesterday. I'll probably be climbing tomorrow. And then taking a few climbing trips. I'm off to Scotland at the end of the May bank holiday. And then we'll do a few more mountains there, head up Ben Nevis, and yeah, that's that. We're sometimes get a bit too adventurous, but yeah, no, it's all good fun, all good fun.
Oh, mamma mia. Must be very tiring.
It can be, man, it can be. I tell you, we had a bit of a close call last year where we were in Spain, up in the Pyrenees Mountains, and we were doing this 14-hour loop route round all the mountains, and it was a bit of an ambitious one. And we ended up about 20 minutes from the top of the mountain that we were going up, and we still had to walk along the ridge and then down a via ferrata on the other side. And it would have been fine, it would have been all right, but we'd already been going for about 12 hours at that point.
12 hours?
12 hours, yeah. Up sort of, I think it was probably about 1,600 meters of elevation gain. And we'd gone up this really, really thin path, this really rocky thin path with a big drop on the other side. So it was hiking, it wasn't proper climbing, but it was hiking. And we get about 20 minutes from the top of the mountain and we're just having an apple, having our food, and then we look at the time and think, shit, it's 20 to 9.
Oh my God.
Sun's setting, and we look at the top of the mountain and think, we've still got to get up there, walk along the ridge, descend down, and then walk along the road back to our campsite. And descending down a via ferrata, which is when they hammer ladder rungs into the side of the mountain. So we would literally just be climbing down the side of the mountain. In the dark, it's not a good idea.
Definitely not. Not even in the light, to be honest with you.
In the light. We thought we'd be fine doing it without a rope, but then we saw videos of it later and thought, we
were really lucky.
We made the right call, because we decided to go back down the mountain. And then the sun sets and we're heading down this thin path. And when I tell you, the path was only like that wide. We had one torch between the two of us, and heading down this steep path, I had to walk 10 paces, stop, turn backwards, light the way for my girlfriend, and she walked the 10 paces to join me. And then I turn around, light the way for myself, walk another 10. When I tell you couldn't see in front of you if you didn't have a torch. It was pitch black.
Oh my God.
Couldn't see any towns or villages anywhere.
You had a torch, right?
We had one torch.
One
torch, which is why we had to stop. Like, walking 10 paces myself, stopping, turning around, lighting the way for my girlfriend. She joins me.
I see you prepared before, yeah? I mean, like one torch, sunset.
Well,
perfect,
mate, we weren't preparing to stay out that late. So we walked down the side of the mountain. We're going for about an hour and a half. And we end up stopping at this little clearing in this little wooded clearing, and we're about 1,400 meters up at this point, and we just think we can't descend the mountain the whole way. We've got no idea what we're doing in the dark. It's a complete, like, the path wasn't even really a path. It was marked by black, blue and yellow paint. So every sort of 10 yards, you'd have the blue and yellow paint, so you knew you were on the right track. But then, so we just thought we've got to stop and we've got to camp on the side of the mountain. And we didn't have sleeping bags, we didn't have our tent, because we'd left all that at the campsite. So we had one pair of trousers, one coat, and one jumper between the two of us. So we just sort of plopped down, used the bag as a pillow, and we try and get to sleep. But the trouble is, it dropped down to about 6-7 degrees. So every hour and a half or so, we get woken up by the wind, and we'd have to start doing some like star jumps, some running on the spot, some shadow boxing just to stay warm, and then we'd go back to sleep. And then we'd do that about 3 or 4 times. So we got a bit of sleep, but it was at 5:30 a.m. when the wild dogs started barking that we started to properly get scared. It was looking up different trees going, well, that one's sturdier if we need to run up that one, but that one goes a bit higher. So it was a bit terrifying. And then, but we made it through the night. And then we woke up the next morning with the light at about 6 a.m. set off at 7. We've got 1 apple each and about 1 inch of water between the two of us. That was the scariest part, really, the no water. And then we walk 3.5 hours back to the campsite and then go on a hike the next day.
My God. Do you like, in a way, have you thought during these moments to ask for help?
Well, it was maybe we should have done, but at the same time, we had enough charge in our phones just about. We had a map. We knew we'd gone up the path we were going down. So calling out someone for help, there's not really much point in it, because we had everything under control. It was a good adventure at the end of the day, and at the next morning as well. So calling for help never really crossed our minds, because other than the dogs, we had never actually felt in danger.
Mamma mia. Is it like something that you often look for? You look for some like wilderness? Yeah.
The mountains, the hills, they're just the absolute best. Scotland, Glencoe, that's where I feel most at home. So there's a mountain in Glencoe called the Buckle Etif Moor, and it stands as the guardian to like the whole glen. Have you seen the movie Skyfall, the James Bond movie?
Yes.
Yeah, it's that bit where James Bond and M are driving down the big mountain road when they go into his house.
Yeah.
If you look on the left of the road, that's the Buckle, and that's the proper start of the mountains in Glencoe. And that mountain, it's awe-inspiring. I've climbed it a fair few times, and it just looks incredible. And so it is doing stuff like that. It's getting out into the wilderness, not really any phone signal, and just climbing up and going up the mountain, treating it with respect and coming back down the other side. So we were in Snowdon a few weeks ago doing some mountain walking, doing some scrambling, and then going to Scotland in a couple of weeks.
That's great. Have you ever other than Spain, have you ever been anywhere else, or would you like to, I don't know, to climb any other mountain?
So the mountains I want to do, in Glencoe, there's one called Ben Nevis, which is the tallest mountain in the UK. It's not a particularly hard one to do if you go up the normal path, but we're going up what's called the CMD Arete. So it's a big knife edge walk. So it's not hard. It's just scary. But we've done some hill walking, some scrambling up in Albania. Done a few bits in Spain, Wales. There's ones for actual mountain walking, because I've been to go up mountains in France and Switzerland. But actual mountain walking, Norway is just the best. You can't beat that, and I really really want to go. That's the one to go to. Cool. And then there's climbing as well. There's such great climbing up in France and in Italy as well. So.
Next time you want to go, just you call me.
I'll call you, man. I'll call you.
No. I'll definitely be there. It's unbelievable. I don't know. I feel too heavy. Like I feel like weak in climbing mountains, and be like, because you need a lot, endurance is. It's
weird, like some climbers need endurance because if they do the long stuff, and then some climbers they just boulder. Like bouldering's big in London. Have you been bouldering in London?
Me?
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah. You're strong, man. You can do it. You're strong.
Yeah, well, I'll try. I'll try one day. You gotta tell me where to go, and then I'll try. Oh, definitely.
It's like bouldering. There's 4 moves, pretty much 4 or 5 moves. Just pull yourself to the top of this little wall and then drop down onto the crash mat. You'd love it. It's really good. It's blown up since the Olympics. Because climbing was in the Olympics in 2022, and then it's going to be at the Olympics, the ones that are this year as well. And it's absolutely blown up. So no, you'd love it. You'd love it.
I will. I will try it.
Yeah.
You let me know where. I'll be there. Definitely. No, I'm more of a fighter, but yeah, I will definitely try out some one day. You actually need a lot of resistance if you know, I do jiu-jitsu, so at the end of the day, you have to be very strong and resist from pulling and pushing. That's it. But you know, like lifting your body is an art, I guess. You gotta be like complete. But yeah, anyway.
But jiu-jitsu, your legs must be really strong for that.
Legs, yeah, but at the end of the day, you often on the floor, so you try to resist to any movement that comes from the top of your body, because the easiest way to choke someone, is like literally to grab them and to make as much of a resistance as possible, given that, you know, the technique must be very, very good. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a lot of like, it's like, you know, fighting against a very tight cable. And you have to pull, oh man, you can imagine how tiring it is. But you know, it's like, you know, 5 minutes, you know what I mean? Like only 5 minutes, most of the times, let's say. But anyway, yeah, it's definitely like a great sport. How did you get into that then?
Well, my family's background in mountain climbing. So all of my family on my dad's side is Scottish, and my uncle was a mountain climber for the RAF. He competed with the RAF for years. And then my godfather and my dad climbed together in the Scottish mountains when they were younger. And my godfather, Dave, he was in mountain rescue for 40 years. And so he's done all of the Munros in Scotland, and there's a couple of hundred of those. And so he's been doing it for so long. And I was always into climbing when I was young, and then got back into it again when I went to university. And then when after lockdown, I thought I've been kept indoors for so long, done a lot of bouldering. I built my own climbing wall in lockdown as well, but it just made me want to go a bit more outdoors and more into the mountains. And so as soon as lockdown finished in 2021, that's when we head up to Glencoe in Scotland for the first time. And since then, not looked back. It's been absolutely perfect. Because the first time I went up that first mountain, there's a little white hut at the bottom of the mountain, and so we climb up the mountain. My dad walks up with some of the veterans up the other side, summit the mountain, go back down the mountain with them, and then we head into the hut at the bottom of the mountain, and then just have beers and have chili and just have a perfect night, and then wake up the next morning, look at the mountain, and you just think, God, I wish I could do this every day. And then you come back to London and you just get reminded of what the real world is like.
What do you think of London? As, you know, you're very like, you know, wilderness, nature.
I'm really, really grateful for places like Putney Heath, Richmond Park, because London. So I grew up outside of London. When I first moved to London in 2021, I was just in awe of all the buildings, the whole like bustling nature of it. It just felt so busy all of the time, and I loved it at first. And especially, it took me a long time. Anyone who moves to London from sort of a small town can relate to this, but you just feel like you don't know where you are at any point. Because like I would have been in Embankment and not known where I was in relation to Westminster. It was that bad. And then you get to know where you're going, and then I felt really privileged to sort of be in London, working in the centre, and then making the most of all the opportunities. I love live music, I love the theatre, and going to see a lot of productions and a lot of gigs. It was really, really awesome. Because when you live outside, anytime you want to do something in London, it's a big thing. It takes a lot of planning. But then now it was just amazing to be here. But then after about a year, it just caught up to me. There was just so much going on, and I couldn't actually get along with it. And then after about that year, I discovered Putney Heath, discovered Richmond Park, and suddenly it was London is so much more than just Soho and Covent Garden. And
definitely.
It was brilliant. So I love the variety of London, and especially if you want to work and you want to like, achieve something, you can't do that if you're just living in the mountains. If you want to achieve, like, 'cause I work in Parliament, I work in public policy. I want to do a lot.
You want to be there.
I want to be there, yeah. And then, like, you could go off in the mountains, you can be a mountain guide, and you can live that way. But I just couldn't do that right now.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest way while you're climbing. It's, oh, listen, we need to do that. No, it's not. It's not practical. So talking about the your job.
Yeah.
So you're working in Parliament.
Yeah.
When have you started? Like, when did you think about actually what brought you to think that you had, let's say, this aspiration?
No, so I was never interested in politics when I was young. Really wasn't. I was always going to be a musician. I was going to be a drummer. And when I was 16, I got into my school sixth form, and my teacher, the head of sixth form, she ran the debating society in our school. And I just got into that. And through that, I got into politics. And I was looking at different music universities. I was having lessons at all the conservatoires, just because I was going to go and study jazz at a university. And then as I get more and more into politics and more into debating, I think, oh God, this could be the route to go down. And then I start campaigning for my local MP, just to get involved. And that leads to doing some work experience. Then that leads to a day shadowing him around Parliament. And then I decided to do a complete 180 and go off to university and study politics instead, and still play music on the side, but it's more of a hobby now. And then going through that and still campaigning, and the general election happens in 2019, and local elections, and getting more and more involved in it. And then as soon as university finishes, I call up my now boss, and just to ask for a bit of advice on what to do next. And 2 days later, he calls me back and offers me a job. So I start working for him in August 2021, and it was a love of wanting to sort of have some good. I wasn't really sure when I started campaigning what I wanted to get out of it. It was more just an interest in politics, an interest in what was going on, because from 2014 to 2019 there was the Scottish independence referendum, there was general election in 2015, there was the American election 2016 and the Brexit referendum. There was the general election 2017. Like, if you weren't going to get interested in politics after that, then not much would have been able to grab you, because there was just so much going on in those few years. It was fascinating following all the different debates and changing my opinions on quite a few of those issues and changing which side I thought I was on. And then you come into Parliament, and then you realise that politics is just so much more varied than you could ever imagine. And
in what sense?
You come in thinking that, so I came in for the first time in Parliament in 2019, just doing a few months of work, and it was all Brexit. Every single thing was Brexit. But everyone was still working on other issues and other things cross-party. So the media likes to present Parliament as very sort of blue versus red, as like right versus left. But in reality, a lot of the politicians on all sides of different parties are really good friends, and they work very closely on issues that aren't reported on. So I've been to some panels on artificial intelligence, and they're sort of joined by both Labour and Conservative MPs who say, oh, I've got so much respect for this MP, and I've got so much respect for this MP and what they're doing. And there's so much of it that is cross-party in Parliament. And that side of it is never really shown in the media.
Why?
Because it's more interesting for the media if it's a fight, and it's
for the media or for the people.
Well, it's a more interesting story, and it's a more interesting narrative.
If it's a fight.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. If you report X and Y are getting along really well and making a lot of progress on this issue, then that's not as interesting a story as X and Y have disagreed on this issue, and X has called Y this and Y has called X that. So bipartisanship is just not as gripping a narrative for the media to push. And if they push a narrative that's a bit more antagonistic and gets more views, then they make a bit more money. So it's that's the side of it that isn't reported in Parliament. So it was really nice to go in. It was really nice as well when I went in. I was 2 years into working on a mental health campaign, So I had a friend at university who took his own life, and there were a variety of reasons for that. But at university, I started campaigning for a change in mental health policy at universities, an information sharing law for the government to endorse this report by Universities UK, which would encourage more information sharing between the university and mental health services and the university and parents if there was a known case of someone who was struggling with depression. Because in my friend's case, that just didn't happen. He was sort of slipped through the system. He did everything he could to seek help, but at the end of the day, he wasn't given the help that he wanted and that he deserved, and he took his own life because of that. And so I started campaigning on this policy while I was at university, and then I come into Parliament, and suddenly everyone who I need to speak to is within a 5-minute walk of my office. And so for the 2 years after I came into Parliament, I made so much progress on that campaign in a way that I just wouldn't have been able to do if I was outside, because it was just me campaigning by myself. And I got a lot of help from MPs and from my boss as well. And they allowed me to sort of push forward and get meetings with the minister and get meetings with MPs and actually succeed in the campaign in the end. So for 2 years in Parliament, there was a lot of what I was really pushing and focusing on.
Oh, Maria. Is mental health still a big, first of all, big taboo, and second, is with this your campaign, has anything changed in universities in a way that, you know, a dramatic change?
Yeah, so it is a big taboo, especially for young men. It's been a big push in the last, I'd say, 5 to 10 years. The conversation around mental health has changed enormously. It used to be for men of a certain age, mental health is the biggest killer for men under the age of 49. And so there's a lot of men that just don't talk about their mental health problems, and they might be suffering from depression for whatever reason. It might be a setback in their professional life, it might be a setback in their personal life. I mean, in a lot of cases, there's history of mental health issues within a family, and all the men in a family can suffer quite severely but not talk about it. And counselling has been a big thing that's been pushed in the US, but not necessarily over here. So there's a lot of people that just don't seek the help they need, either from friends or from family or from professional therapists. But in the last 5 to 10 years, there's been this big push. And you see people like the England football team talking about it. You see adverts on TV all the time. You get people talking about it on breakfast TV and on chat shows, their history and struggles with mental health. And there's a lot of podcasts dedicated to it now. And so it's a big push. And I think we're at a place now that the conversation is better than it has ever been. But there's still so much to go, because it's generations of men not talking about their well-being. It can't be changed in 5 minutes, because you've had this stigma put on you for decades. And then, especially if you're sort of an age about 50, 60 years old, it's not going to change overnight. But it's at a better place. And so I've had therapy. I mean, I've especially following my friend's death, I've had a lot of therapy to come through that, and I will recommend it to anyone who ever is feeling low or feels like they want to just have a checkup even, because your mental health is as important as your physical health, and one can affect the other, and in both positive and negative ways. So it's a big area and a big undertaking, but the conversation has really improved. With my policy, since my friend's death, there was about between 2018 and 2021, a lot of students that took their own lives at university. And there was a lot of media attention pushed on it. So there were cases at the University of Bristol, University of Exeter, University of Liverpool, University of East Anglia.
Yeah,
where
like 60, 70 people a year.
Yeah. But it's not even, a lot of these cases were preventable.
That's what I'm saying. You know, like
yeah.
It's not even, you don't really cross the street to someone, you know, is something that you can prevent somehow. Because probably these people seek for help. Yeah.
And and it was just so fortunate that the parents of these children stood up and just said, this isn't right, this shouldn't have happened. And they've been really, really effective campaigners. So you've got the For the 100 campaign, which is a campaign to get a statutory duty of care put into universities. And those campaigners have, over the last 5 years, really raised the profile of mental health at universities. You've got the Three Dads Walking campaign, where again, they're parents of kids who took their own lives, and they've had this massive media push, this massive media campaign to raise its profile. And so I think not just because of me and my campaign, but a lot of because of other parents and other families that have joined together and out of awful situations and have really tried to push for change. Because it is a really awful fact, but a lot of the time something terrible needs to happen in order to expose flaws in the system.
So true.
So because either you can't see the flaws beforehand, or no one listens until the flaws are exposed in the worst possible way. So people, I'm sure, were pointing out that mental health structures in universities were really, really lacking, but no one really listened until people suffered because of it. And so I like to think, because of my campaign, that a little difference was made, and that universities listen more to the information sharing policies, and even the profile was raised. So we've just been very fortunate to have politicians. So the minister that I dealt with for universities was a guy called Robert Halfon, and he really cared about the issue. He really put it at the forefront of what he wanted to do. And so we're just really fortunate to have the right people in place at the right time to try and push and to make more of a difference on that.
This mental health pandemic, I would call it, raising up in also outside university, you believe?
Yeah. Well, I think it's worse than I think it's ever been, and I think a lot of that is to do with the social media. There's just so much social media and Instagram, TikTok going on, and young people in particular being exposed to things at ages 11, 12 that they would never have been exposed to in years gone by. And so, I mean, just for one example, cyberbullying is worse than it's ever been. I was speaking to a deputy head teacher at one of a school in Northampton, and she was telling me that there were WhatsApp groups created by young people, and they will have a WhatsApp group. There'll be about 5 or 6 kids in this group, and then they will add people from their class, from their school, to this WhatsApp group with the sole purpose of just berating them and just calling them names and just basically abusing them on this WhatsApp group. And then when they're done, they'll just kick them out of the group. And like that sort of bullying that, I mean, it was definitely not around when I was at school.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
my friend.
It was, I mean, you have different sorts of bullying, but now just to be able to pick on people whenever you like, it's the sort of stuff that young people are exposed to these days is absolutely insane. And I mean, I know people who have got kids who were sort of 11 and 12, and those kids just spent all day on their phones. And it's so damaging for someone's mental health to be constantly comparing yourself to curated images of other people on the internet, but B, to not be able to have the social skills to practice speaking to people and to socialize and to go outside. I mean, part of the reason why I love going outdoors and in the mountains so much is because it's great for my mental health, because it gets you out of the busyness of life and off your phone, and just sort of reconnecting with nature. And for kids just to be locked up in their rooms all day on TikTok, on Instagram, just getting more and more addicted to these platforms, it's absolutely insane. And it's just causing this mental health crisis and this mental health epidemic in a way that we've never seen before.
Every time I think about it, this is obviously is a paradox, because all this is going to go definitely on socials. But you know, like the thing that you say is like, let's try to prevent children to go on social media. Today, TikTok has a ban for kids under the age of 14, 15, I can't remember. Every social media has it, but still videos of kids and doing stuff or like presence of kids is so big.
Yeah.
It looks like the same companies don't really follow the rules that they made to prevent kids to be on that.
Yeah.
And also, in terms of like mental health issues, I think COVID. Do you think COVID was a big thing as well?
So yes, COVID
Together with socials.
COVID was a massive thing. So the ages of sort of 10 and 14 are so important for a child's development socially. So it's the age where you're coming a bit more into yourself, you're becoming more mature, and then you go off to secondary school in the UK. And so to go into lockdown and for kids to miss out on the first 2 years of secondary school, of normal school where they can talk to other people, it was hugely damaging, because then they replaced that with social media. And for parents, I really feel for parents who were just in a position in that time where you might not want your kid to go on social media, you might want your kid to go outdoors more, but what really other option do you have? You're locked inside your home, and a lot of parents need to work still, and they can't. School acts like a good childcare centre for a day, so parents can work. And but no, kids were locked inside. They didn't have anything to do other than go on their phones and go on computer games, and it's that really pushed it forward. And you're completely right about the social media company. So there was the CEO of TikTok has been in front of Congress a lot in the United States. The American representative has been in front of Congress a lot, and he was asked, "How old are your kids?" And they were something like 11 and 12, and he was asked, "Are your kids on TikTok?" And he said, "No, they're far too young for that. It's not our policy to put kids that age on TikTok. We have age restrictions for a reason." But they make money off kids that age being on TikTok, and they may not want kids to that age to be on TikTok. They may have the age restrictions, but the fact is that a lot of kids that age are. And if they're not on TikTok, they're consuming the media in another way. And to have the age restrictions be sort of 11, 12, I can't remember, I don't know what they are for TikTok, but it's around that age. It's still too young to be, because it's still too young to get addicted to that when you can go on it. Even at 16, you go on TikTok and you get addicted to it instantly. So, and it's not just the content, because the content is worrying, and you can go down rabbit holes of conspiracy theories, and you go down rabbit holes of
too many,
far too many. But it's just the actual consuming of it. It's made to be bite-sized content. It's made to be as addictive as possible. I mean, social media companies, they literally want to make these apps more addictive than drugs, more addictive than crack. Is the line. But yeah, it's
absolutely.
They make more money off the more people on the content. I'd be absolutely shocked if they really care if there is an 11-year-old using the platform.
The thing is, like with them, lately, if I'm not wrong, I may be wrong, but I've read an article regarding it's called like infinite scrolling, endless scrolling. So it means like, when first of all, you don't have social media.
I don't have any social media. No.
So the new technology of social media allows you to scroll an infinite time.
Yeah.
Endless. You can keep scrolling. So this creates a lot more addiction.
Yeah.
Right? This addiction is seen as the same as gambling addiction.
Yeah.
Drug addiction.
Yeah.
So you keep wanting more. And this was pointed by one of the, let's say, the Congress trying to stop this, to limit this way, because it was like proof that it was causing issues to all the account holders and all the customers. Together with other things like, I don't know, like extreme, not even extreme sport, but like extreme like violence or something that was leading to violence.
Yeah.
Misleading informations, which is something crazy. And maybe you know a bit more about that. But about also like fake news. And, what do you think about? What do you think we could do for we citizens to prevent at least this fake news on ourselves, or to like be more informed about something before?
Yeah. Well, so when I got rid of social media when I was 17, 18, I got rid of it because back then Instagram was just about looking about what your friends were doing. And it was kind of curating an image of yourself for your friends and for other people that you vaguely know. And it was all about getting as many likes on your own photos as possible, because that's where the serotonin hit comes from. And I just got bored of the consumption of what other people were doing. But it was very focused on your friends, and TikTok wasn't around back then either. It was just about sort of a personal thing. Social media was about personal curation and judging yourself against other people. And so I got rid of it back then for that reason. But social media usage, I think what people gain out of social media has changed so much in the last 5 years. I mean, even on Instagram, it used to be you just consume what your friends were posting and then post yourself. But now you consume what fitness influencers are posting and what travel influencers and travel vloggers are posting. And you can, as you say, there's the endless scroll aspect, where instead of just going down and watching the photos, you now watch these little curated videos of sort of 10 things I did on my trip to Bali or something like that. And that's where you get it from. And in some ways that's even harder to swallow, because not a lot of people have, or I mean, I know it's very accessible, but not everyone can video edit like that. And so you're watching what a lot of these people do, and sometimes they've sort of half faked the things that they do abroad, and it's not entirely truthful. And you think, oh my God, I want to do that. I want to be like that person so much. But now you don't know them. And you can't then compare yourself to them as freely, because they're suddenly this just thing in the ether that looks like they have the perfect life, and suddenly you just get more depressed about your own. But as well, and you're so correct that people consume most of their news from Facebook and from TikTok these days, which is so antithetical to how you want to get good quality information. If you scroll down TikTok, and politicians are now cottoning onto this, where a lot of politicians are putting themselves, I mean, the Bank of England is now on TikTok, and the chair of the Bank of England has now started to make TikTok videos to say what the Bank of England are about. And in some ways that's really clever, because you're reaching a brand new audience, and you're trying to communicate what you do to people that never would have really seen what you do, and do it through a new medium. But at the same time, anyone can be on social media. And so
literally anyone, I'm telling you.
It was.
You don't follow it much, but I'm telling you, yesterday I saw a, what's it called? I don't know, what's it called? Like a monk?
Yeah.
A monk.
A monk on social media.
An Italian monk on social media, man. I was like, what? Why this? Why all this? Well, we started in Italy, different stories. Like there was a nun. She was starting singing in you know, The Voice. Yeah. Something similar, or maybe The Voice of England, of Italy. And she was a good singer. Yeah. And then she decided not to be a nun anymore. Sorry, it makes me laugh. And so now there's a monk on TikTok explaining the laugh of a monk on TikTok. Why? But anyway, yeah, it's going away from policy and, you know, politics and stuff. But this world is so funny. I mean, like, at the end of the day, you would never, I thought that the monk was something like superior, you know, like something that would never like fall into this addictive, because it's addictive at the end of the day. And then it comes with ethic and stuff, so it makes me laugh a lot. But anyway, you're right. Today, you can be anyone who has a bit of like, you know, public like figure. Is a public figure, like you said, the Bank of England, they was like the chairman, as anybody else, and you can, like, in a way teach people, and, you know, in a way give people notions about your job, which is honestly a great thing to have. That's why I have you here today, because I've literally I know, as you say, like, I know like left and right. That's the only thing I know. And probably I know some names, but I'm not really into like literally the core of the job. So that's why you're here. That's why I wanted to have a chat with you. And we're going to talk about that a bit more because I'm very curious about also how you have, what's the way that we perceive from outside the parliament and how you see it inside. You know, I remember last time you said to me, and we're gonna cut it in if you don't want to, but he said to me, man, go grab a beer with me in the parliament. I was like, what? In the parliament? Do I need to have wear tuxedos? Do I need to I don't know, man. I have no idea what's it like, you know what I mean? Oh, go grab a beer. We're gonna go to the pub in the parliament. Obviously, it's very English. But the pub in the parliament. Also, yes, I will do it. I feel scared still. I'm not been yet, but you know, it's crazy, man.
Honestly, it's so weird working in that building because the oldest part of Parliament was built in 1099 by William II.
Yep.
So it's an old place, and you feel the history as you're walking around there. So I mean, it's working for an MP. There are so many young people in Parliament working for MPs. People from the ages of even sort of 19, 18 doing their first internships to sort of I've been in Parliament for nearly 3 years now, and I'm 24. So it's a job for a lot of people straight out of university working for an MP. But then you've got thousands of people who work for the parliamentary estate, who do IT, who do security. There's a gym in Parliament, so you've got a few personal trainers on site. So there's a lot of jobs to do. Parliament itself, it's a really great place to work. I mean, yeah, you've got the pub, you've got a couple of the pubs, you've got a couple of restaurants in there. But a lot of that is it's a really important place to socialise, and a lot of relationships are made over a drink. And it's contrary to what people believe. There's not a lot of partying going on in there. It's a nice place, but everywhere shuts up shop pretty early. And then Westminster's full of pubs that a lot of civil servants go to as well, and a lot of events are hosted at. But a lot of relationships in Parliament are made when you're just having a quiet drink with someone, or when you're sort of outside of the work environment, just to sit down with someone and just get to know them on a personal level. Because MPs are often in Parliament voting until midnight on Mondays and Tuesdays. So they've got the dining rooms, they've got the restaurants, they've got the bar, they've got the pub. And so it's actually quite a nice place. The building is so old and so decrepit and so run down in a lot of places that it's quite a dangerous place to work. The Victorians' idea of air conditioning was to funnel air up into main areas, which means that if there's ever a fire in Parliament, it will just balloon up and into the open space.
Like Sherlock Holmes, you ever seen that? Just with the poison into the...
Yeah, I mean, there's currently a big restoration project going on in Parliament to restore the old stonework, to make it more accessible for disabled people. Because when Parliament was built and then it burnt down in 1834 and then was rebuilt in 1856, and then it got destroyed again during World War II. So a lot of places are either quite new and a bit better, but a lot of places are quite still sort of pretty run down and old. And but no, it's a really great place to work, because you go in immediately. I went in at age 21, and you suddenly just feel the weight of everyone that's been in there since 1090. I mean, I think it's been proven, and you can prove it, that every king and queen of England, Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland has been in Westminster Hall since William II. So you walk into that building and you think, God, Henry VIII got married in here once, and this is where King Charles...
Sorry, was Henry VIII the little crazy one or not?
They were all a little crazy. Henry VIII was the one with 6 wives. Yeah. And then Charles I was...
I will walk in the parliament like this. Yeah. Please,
You'd have been fine. You'd have been fine. But no, like Charles I was beheaded in there, and there was an IRA bomb that went off there. Still the remnants of. So
Wow.
The history in that place is just absolutely incredible. But the work is so varied. I mean, people do so many different roles there. I mean, I do speech writing. I do media work, but I also do sort of budget management in the office, and sort of all the little fine details that come around from working for an MP is part of the job. But it's but so much change as well there all the time, because staff come and go a lot of the time. But then MPs change constantly. There'll be an election at some point this year, and you'll have a whole new crop of MPs that come in. So there's constant rotation, there's constant change, but there's also constant work going on as well. So some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life are members of Parliament, because they will get up at 5, 6 a.m, do work before they come into Parliament, and then do their constituency work, do their casework for the people that live in their area, do ministerial work. They'll have to vote as well. Media, some of them do as well. So it's being an MP really it's kind of like 3 jobs rolled into one, and so there's just a constant bustle. There's constant busyness, and it is a really, really rewarding.
Being
place.
MP is also something that probably doesn't make you a living, does it, in London?
It's not as well paid as people think it is. It really
Fine.
is.
Let's say to everybody again, repeat it. No, because people, they're very,
Yeah.
no, this is the way they think, though. They get paid loads of money, and then at the end of the day, they don't help us.
Yeah.
Tell them out.
No one comes into politics for the money. British politics is not American politics. Leaders of councils get paid more than members of Parliament. The governor of the Bank of England gets paid more than the Prime Minister, I think. They've just had these new roles in hospitals, CEOs of hospitals. They get paid more than MPs. And especially considering the salary MPs get, it's still a good salary, don't get me wrong, it's still a good salary, but it's not what people think it is. And considering that, and considering you can get paid more doing a lot of other jobs, especially the people that are becoming MPs, and then you get the work-life balance on top of it. So Ian Blackford, he's Member of Parliament for somewhere very, very rural in Scotland. He has to fly down, and a lot of Scottish MPs are the same with this. He has to fly down or get the train down from Scotland every Sunday night or Monday morning. You then got to be in Parliament Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for votes, which a lot of the time can go on till midnight. And then you go back to your constituency on Thursday or Friday and spend the weekend with your family, but you've still got to work from your constituency. And so being an MP is really not conducive to raising a family, especially if you've got a young family. I know a lot of jobs are like that, but Member of Parliament is definitely like that, especially if you don't live in London.
You may have some privilege on the side, being part of the Parliament, maybe or maybe not, but it's still a job. It's not. They're not acting. They're working. You know what I mean?
And quite a lot of people take pay cuts to become MPs because they just have that public. They just really, really want to do some public service. And as well, a lot of people are being put off becoming MPs because of both the scrutiny you get, because we do need to scrutinise public politicians to make sure they're not doing things they shouldn't be doing, but it's got to the point where you cannot have a private life if you're certain members of Parliament, and that then leads to abuse. I mean, the abuse that MPs, particularly women MPs, get is absolutely horrendous.
Is it?
It is absolutely horrendous. I mean, Diane Abbott, she's the MP that gets the most abuse. She was the first black female MP in Parliament. She's the MP that gets the most abuse by far. And she has had to put up with that for decades. And it's really, really awful. And I work for an MP, and I've been called some things just for working for an MP. Not even people knowing what MP I work for, just for working for an MP. And so people are being put off it. People are being put off getting into politics because of I mean, we've had 2 MPs in the last 10 years be murdered by extremists, and MPs' safety is really a concern. I mean, there's been stories recently in the press about MPs being honey trapped and being fished and blackmailed for different things, and so you're really putting yourself in the firing line if you become a public politician. There are people in the city who work in Canary Wharf who earn 10 times more than MPs, but work far.
I have some.
Yeah, but they work far fewer hours. They and no one knows their names, and they don't get anywhere near the level of abuse that MPs get, and some of it is really, really worrying.
I have, for instance, some of my clients or the client of Shop and Flask are very wealthy. You know, that kind of like, you know, you would never imagine how rich they are by the time they walk into the into the shop. You know what I mean? Like, they're literally super, super rich, but they don't show it. Yeah. You don't know their name. You know the name, but you don't know their story. You don't know them behind. They can walk like freely, literally, like with, you know, nobody thinks about the person as a public figure because they don't know who is this person. And it maybe could buy the whole shop like this. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying to you. Sometimes obviously, I think like MPs and everyone, you as well, you will like take it for granted that once you step into the parliament, you know you are under threat somehow. Some light one, it depends on your position as well, but you know that you need to be aware that people outside are a bit crazy. If someone wants to, you know, like, I don't know, threat you on social media or they text you or something like this. It's part of the game, but I think this is something that must be done about that. You know, like, you cannot really wake up in the morning and think like, oh yeah, probably today someone is gonna send me a bullet or someone is gonna, you know what I mean? Is you're trying to do your job to make thing work in UK and I
know the speaker, Lindsay Hoyle. He's a really good guy, and he's been really concerned about this. So the security measures for MPs have been increased and different things have been implemented, but it's the mentality from the minority of the public that is really causing this. You can increase the security of people, but if the public are getting, or not the public, but people are getting more and more angry with MPs, then of course violence is going to increase on them. And of course threats and blackmail are going to increase on them, especially if you've got a situation which we're in now of foreign states interfering with elections and trying to disseminate and trying to put disinformation into our media sphere, which is got the sole purpose of trying to sow discord into our political system. And we've not had that before to the extent that we have it now, where you can say, you can track literal things that Russia and China are doing that has the express purpose of trying to make our countries more unstable. And it's just something that I fear is going to get worse before it gets better.
Do you think that there's now is it now difficult to have the pulse of the situation? Do you think that now to understand if a story is true or false? Coming back to the previous one, but I guess, you know, if you have some infiltrations, some big country who try like to, you know, in a way, you know, destroy the calm and create chaos in another country. Do you think that now it's more difficult to detect what's true, what's false, especially what's relatable, what's valuable for the people?
Yeah, absolutely. So news consumption has changed dramatically. So before in the 1960s, 1950s, you'd have, especially, so if you take America, because that's the more extreme example, you'd have 2, maybe 3 news channels which had the sole purpose of providing the news for the masses. So they had to make the news as broad and as uncontroversial as possible, really. Sorry, I've got a bit of hair in my mouth.
Sorry,
so they
there you go, perfect.
they then were seen as the most trusted sources. So you had newsreaders like Edward Murrow and Walter Cronkite, who were sort of the bastions of news. But now, because you have so many different sources, you've got, in America, there's so many news channels, and then people on TikTok and Facebook are giving their own pieces of news out. And it's really been sort of the death of the expert, where anyone can say anything and it can be factual or incorrect, as people choose the facts they want now to back up their own argument or to reinforce views they already have. And so if that is being interfered with then by Russia and China, then it makes it even more worrying, because then you really don't know what is a belief that someone holds that might be misguided or wrong versus what is genuine disinformation from a state or from someone who's either just looking to make money out of a situation or who's looking to a really volatile political situation. And it's just so difficult to determine what is right, what is wrong, because people dig their heels in more these days than they ever did before. If you can say to someone, you can say, this is factually incorrect, nothing supports your argument, this is absolute bonkers. I mean, a lot of the conspiracy theory stuff around COVID, that's just got bigger as time's gone on, the vaccine stuff. But people don't care. People still find themselves in little echo chambers, and they will still carry on to work to sort of spread this disinformation, especially if they believe it. There's an MP in Parliament currently who's trying to say that vaccines cause excess COVID deaths, and it's bonkers.
Really?
Yeah, it's bonkers and it's wrong. But he was carrying on, and the more people say to him, no, you're wrong. Here's the science. Here's the facts. The more he'll find other people who are not credible at all, but who will say, "Oh no, you're right. This is where you need to look for the next piece of information." So it's more difficult than ever, just because of the amount of different places people can go to find news sources that reinforce their own opinion, and just the way news has changed. It's much more difficult to call a lie these days.
True, because you don't know if the person who calls the lie a liar is a liar itself.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? It's not. It's just nowadays it looks more and more difficult to have the point of the situation everywhere, in any social. I get, in Italy we say there's the plaque of the 50 years old on social media.
Yeah.
So when you reach the 50 years old and you're on Facebook, you may believe to everything is written. I don't know if it's the same in the UK, but I can tell you that people truly believe that if you don't send this message, something bad is going to happen to you. So it's tricky. It's tricky, but it's so true. It's so true. What would you like to, let's say, do you have a solution for that? Do you think there's a solution?
God, man, I don't think there is, especially with artificial intelligence coming up. And that's a whole other hour and a half conversation to have. But I genuinely, we just need people to go into politics who have convictions and who want to fight for whatever they believe in. Because I mean, whether you're on the left or the right, you just need people with convictions to go in and fight for what they believe in. Because I don't think the news system's going to get any better. I don't think the media landscape's going to get any better. I don't think the social media system's going to get any better either. But as long as you have people going in and defending these sort of traditional values and just traditional beliefs of, stability in politics and instability in the country, then that's really what you want. But I think as well, a lot of people across the world across the Western world are just fed up with decades of no real visible improvement in their lives, which has led them to more extreme and populist people like Donald Trump and like Bolsonaro in Brazil. So you just really need to help make people's lives better, and that's the way to sort of combat that. But again, it's a hard one. But just for people to turn up in elections and defeat those sorts of people, that's what's needed.
Is it easy?
It's not easy. It's not easy, man.
That's why you're here, my friend. So, do we want to style it? Do you want to use a bit of styling powder?
Yeah, a bit of styling powder, a bit of spray. My hair's going straight into a helmet for the next few hours, so it's
hopefully it's gonna keep.
Yeah,
so we're gonna use the sea salt spray. And voila. This helps a lot to give you a good texture. And then we're gonna use a bit of powder. Oh, what time you start today? What time you leave?
well, now.
Oh, really? Like
I'm going straight from here and then cycling to Windsor.
Mamma mia, man.
It's gonna be tough.
Hopefully the weather is gonna help today. It doesn't look too bad.
Hopefully it should hold out. We'll be fine.
Voila. Nice and textures as always. Let me just calm it down a bit. This is the barber part. That's the end of it. For the haircut lovers. And voila. Thank you very much. Grazie mille.
Grazie mille.
Oh, that was good. Perfetto. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your presence.
Always keep on going.
I'll see you next time.
Thank you.